Good day, ABM Business Math learners. I am Ma'am Yang, and again, welcome to my class. In this video, you will acquire an understanding about profit, loss, and break-even. The most essential learning competencies for this video lesson is you learners can differentiate profit and loss, illustrate how profit is obtained and how to avoid loss in a given transaction, and determine the break-even point. To become a successful entrepreneur, we must develop the skills and knowledge of calculating the basic computation of profit and loss, and of course, how to avoid loss in a given transaction. But before that, let us define first the key terminologies that we will be encountering in this video lesson. The key terminologies are profit, loss, and break-even. Let us define first what profit is. Profit is the difference between what a merchant invests into business and what he receives in return. Also, profit is the amount left after the cost is deducted from sales. To get a profit, the formula to be used is profit is equal to net sales minus cost. We will earn a profit if our net sales is greater than the cost. Net sales is the amount of money received from selling goods, while cost is the amount paid for the goods. Now for loss, it happens when the net sales of goods is less than its cost. The formula is loss is equal to net sales minus cost, and the answer is negative because net sales is less than cost. Now for break-even, it is the level of output in units and in pesos at which all costs are paid but no profits are earned, resulting to net income equal to 0. Now let us learn how to calculate business profit or loss. We have here an example. Sebastian lost his job due to global COVID-19 pandemic. To support his family, he invested in buying and selling salted egg. He bought it from his friend who was looking for a retailer. He bought 30 trays for 300 pesos per tray and was given a discount of 30 pesos per tray. He will sell it for 400 pesos per tray. He incurred expense for fuel of 500 pesos and on the loads of cell phone for 100 pesos. The first step that we should do is to calculate the net sales. So it will answer the question how much is the net sales if he sells 30 trays of salted egg. So to calculate for net sales, we will multiply the number of trays to be sold by the selling price. So the number of trays to be sold is 30 and the selling price is 400. So our net sales for this is 12,000 pesos. The second step is to calculate the cost. If given a discount, we need to compute for new cost and subtract it to the original cost. So we will answer the question, how much is the cost of 30 trays of salted eggs? So the original cost for our 30 trays of salted egg is 9,000 pesos. We multiply the number of trays, the number of trays purchased, which is 30, and the amount is 300 pesos. So we have an original cost of 9,000 pesos. But then, Sebastian was given a discount of 30 pesos per tray. So 30 trays times 30, the total discount is 900. So we will deduct such discount from our original cost. So 9,000 minus 900, our new cost is 8,100. The third step is to calculate the business expenses or the operating expenses. So we will answer the question, how much is the expenses incurred? The mentioned expenses that falls under the operating expenses are the fuel expense amounting to 500 pesos and the cell phone load amounting to 100 pesos, a total of 600 pesos. Okay, the last step is to subtract the sum of expenses and costs to net sales. So we will answer the question, how much is the profit of selling 30 trays of salted eggs? So our formula is profit or loss is equal to net sales minus cost and expenses. To substitute, our net sales is 12,000, our cost is 8,100, and our expenses or operating expenses is 600 pesos. So we have a total cost of 8,700 pesos. Now, 12,000 minus 8,700, the answer is 3,300. So since our net sales is larger than our cost, we will earn a profit of 3,300. Okay, so to answer the question, how much is the profit of selling 30 trays of salted eggs? The answer is a profit of 3,300 pesos. Another example is JR bought two digital cameras at 15,490 pesos each. He sold one of the cameras to his friend at 13,500, while the other one was sold to his neighbor at 16,200. Okay, for the first step, we have to calculate the net sales. We have to answer the question, how much is the net sales if he sold the cameras? We now have to compute for net sales. How much does JR sold his camera? Okay, so the first camera was sold at 13,500 and the other one at 16,200. So the total, or yes, the net sales or the total sales is amounting to 29,700. Next is calculate the cost. If given a discount, you need to compute for new cost and subtract the original cost. So we will answer the question, how much is the cost of two cameras? So the cost of two cameras is 15,490 multiplied to 2 units. So the total cost of two digital cameras is 30,980. Okay, so that is the total cost. We don't have discounts for this. Now next is to calculate the business expenses. How much is the expenses incurred? So in this problem or in this example, no expenses mentioned. So for step 4, we will subtract the sum of expenses and costs to net sales. So you will answer the question, how much is the profit of selling two cameras? The formula, profit or loss is equal to net sales minus cost and expenses. To substitute, our net sales is 29,700 and our total cost is 30,980. So in this case, net sales is less than our cost, therefore JR incurred loss amounting to 1,280 pesos. When opening a business, do you know the minimum number of units to be sold to generate the revenue needed to cover the cost? In business enterprise, when the total cost is higher than net sales, the level of sales is losing. When the net sales are higher than total cost, the business is making profit. Finally, the point at which profit is equal to total cost or neither no profit nor loss, it is called break-even. When you already know your break-even point, you will be able to determine what cost you will need to cover to establish a new product and how to price it. To determine the break-even point, we have to identify the following. First, the fixed cost. What are these fixed costs? These are the costs that do not change with varying output. So even we have a lot of products to be sold, these are the expenses that do not change: the salary, the rent, and the building machinery. Next is the sales price per unit or the selling price per unit. Then last is the variable cost per unit. The variable cost per unit is the variable cost incurred to create a unit. Costs that vary with the number of units produced or sold. So these are the costs that when we have a lot of products to make, the higher the cost. And then the little number of units to produce, the lesser also the amount of expenses. Now let us learn how to compute break-even point. Here are the formula. To compute for the break-even point in units, the formula is fixed cost divided by the difference of selling price per unit and variable cost per unit. Or break-even point in units is equal to fixed cost divided by contribution margin per unit. Contribution margin per unit can be computed by selling price per unit minus variable cost per unit. Next is a break-even point in pesos. Break-even point in pesos can be calculated by multiplying the selling price per unit to break-even points in unit. To calculate how many units should be sold and able for the business earn a desirable profit, the formula to be used is break-even point desired profit is equal to desired profit divided by contribution margin per unit. And the answer for this will be added to break-even point in units. We have here an example. J. Chris is planning to run a coffee shop where he plans to sell each cup of coffee at 50 pesos. He assumed that the fixed cost he needs to pay on a monthly basis amounts to 40,000 pesos, which includes all his expenses like the amount he needs to pay for rent, salaries, and utility bills. So, even J. Chris has no sales, he is still obliged to pay this amount. If a cup of coffee costs J. Chris 10 pesos for the bulk of ground coffee beans, purified water, coffee filters, and cup, what is the break-even quantity? How much profit or loss if he sells 500 cups or 1,500 cups? Next, how many cups must be sold to earn a profit of 40,000 pesos? Now let us identify the given. So here are the given. The fixed cost is 40,000 pesos. Our variable cost per unit is 10 pesos. And the selling price per unit is 50 pesos. Now let us answer first the question, what is the break-even quantity? For the solution, the formula that we are going to use is break-even point in units is equal to fixed cost divided by selling price per unit minus variable cost per unit. So to substitute, our fixed cost is 40,000 pesos and our selling price is 50 and our variable cost per unit is 10 pesos. So our contribution margin per unit is 40. So to divide 40,000 pesos to 40, our break-even point in units is 1,000 units. Meaning, if we can sold or if J. Chris sold 1,000 cups of coffee, she will not earn a profit nor incurred losses. Now let us answer the question, how much profit or loss if he sells 500 cups? Okay. Let us identify first how much will be the net sales. So the net sales for 500 cups of coffee is 25,000 pesos. And the variable cost for 500 cups is 5,000 pesos, and our fixed cost is 40,000 pesos. Now let us compute first the total cost. So the total cost is equal to fixed cost plus variable cost. Our fixed cost is 40,000 and our variable cost is 5,000, a total of 45,000 pesos. Now let us compute for the profit or loss. Profit or loss is equal to net sales minus total cost. To substitute, our net sales is 25,000 pesos and our total cost is 45,000 pesos. Since our total cost is higher than our net sales, meaning J. Chris incurred loss amounting to 20,000 pesos. Now let us answer the question, how much profit or loss if he sells 1,500 cups? Okay, now let us identify first our net sales. Net sales, 1,500 cups times selling price amounting to 50 pesos. So our net sales is 75,000 pesos. Next, let us identify the variable cost. Okay, the variable cost or the cost for 1,500 cups is 15,000 pesos. Since the cost for every cup of coffee is 10 pesos and our fixed cost is 40,000. Now let us proceed in computing our total cost. Total cost is equal to fixed cost plus variable cost. Fixed cost is 40,000 pesos and our variable cost is 15,000 pesos, a total of 55,000 pesos. Now let us proceed in computing the profit or loss. Okay, profit or loss is equal to net sales minus total cost. To substitute, our net sales is 75,000 pesos and our total cost is 55,000 pesos. Now since our total cost is less than our net sales, therefore J. Chris earns a profit amounting to 20,000 pesos. Now to answer the question, how many cups must be sold to earn a profit of 40,000 pesos? Now for the solution for that, we will use the formula break-even point and desired profit is equal to desired profit divided by contribution margin per unit, and the answer from this will be added to break-even point in units. Okay, so the break-even point in unit with desired profit, so let us substitute. The desired profit is 40,000 pesos and the contribution margin per unit is 40 pesos. So where did it came from? So contribution margin per unit can be computed by deducting the variable cost from the selling price. So selling price is 50 minus variable cost per unit 10 pesos. So our contribution margin per unit is 40 pesos. And then we will add the computed break-even points earlier. Okay, so the computed BEP in units is 1,000. So to divide 40,000 to 40 pesos, that is 1,000. And then let's add the computed break-even point in unit earlier, that is 1,000. Therefore, the required number of cups to be sold to earn a profit of 40,000 is 2,000 cups. Okay, so J. Chris has to sell 2,000 cups of coffee before he will earn an amount of he will earn a profit of 40,000 pesos. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy watching while learning. See you in our next video lesson. Have a nice day.